forces or surface forces. And viscous forces again have two different components. Now these body forces, gravity, electric and magnetic, most of the times they are absent. So except in natural convection, we will not be considering the body forces. So you can apply, like you can take an infinitesimal volume and the momentum entering and momentum leaving, as well as the forces acting on that infinitesimal volume, and then you can balance them. So these are the forces acting on the surface in x direction. Now this momentum equation, there will be two different equations, the x momentum equation and y momentum equation. Okay. So this basically gives you the this part is related is viscous force, and this part is the pressure force. The second term is the pressure force, right? And you equate the inertia forces with the other forces, that is this viscous force, and the or rate of change of momentum is equated with the forces. So this is related with viscous force, and this is the pressure force. So this is simplified x momentum equation. And similar thing can be applied to the y direction. But as I told earlier, that you can apply the what is called you can apply what is called order of magnitude analysis. That is, certain terms are much smaller than the other term. What I explained you what is order of magnitude. That is something maybe of the order of 10 raised to minus 2. So it is of the order of 0.01. So even 0.03 would be called of the order of 10 raised to minus 2. But something may be of the order of, let's say, 10 raised to 3. So that is if something is, let's say, 4,000. So that is of the order of 10 raised to 3. So what you do here is when you realize that a particular parameter is much smaller than the other parameter. So let's say something is of the order of 10 raised to minus 2, while the other is of the order of 10 raised to 3. Then obviously you can neglect, you don't want to waste your time and energy on something, on investigating something which is of the order of 10 raised to minus 2, but rather focus your time and energy for getting the nature of something which is of the order of 10 raised to 3. So that's the pragmatic approach that you apply, and with that you can find certain simplified equations. So the y momentum equation actually becomes very simple. As you can read here, the velocity component, this v is much smaller than v is much smaller than u. Okay, so the development of the boundary layer is gradual, and as I told, we are talking about only laminar flow. Now the rate of change of v with respect to x is almost 0. Okay, and rate of change of v with respect to y is also almost equal to 0. And then this du by dx is much less than du by dy, right? So the rate of change of a parameter in y direction is much larger than the rate of change of that parameter in x direction. Again, as I told, the development of the boundary layer is very gradual, not very rapid as it happens in laminar case, not in turbulent case. Temperature gradients, again, similar to your u velocity gradient, the temperature gradient in x direction is also much smaller as compared to that in y direction. So while we drew the boundary layers, we only focused upon the dt by dy and not on any other means not on dt by dx. Okay, so the reason for that is this dt by dy is of interest to us. It is more significant. So with these simplifications, if you like, you can have the y momentum equation very similar to that, except that here you will have v in place of u, right? And again v in place of u here, and this will be dp by dy. But then what you find is those terms dv by dx and dv by dy, and this is again second order, d square v by d square y dy square. So that's going to be very, very small. So we are going to neglect all those terms, and what you get is just dp by dy is equal to 0. It means that there is no change in pressure if you go in y direction, right? So like you don't need to measure it at multiple points on a particular cross section, and even if you measure the pressure outside the boundary layer, inside the boundary layer also same pressure exists on a particular cross section. Okay. Now energy equation. So again an infinitesimal volume is taken and energy enters in two different forms. Right. This is what type of system? This is an open type of system. Uh, okay. So the mass also enters and the heat also enters, but here the system doesn't do any work, right? So W is equal to 0. Q is a finite number, and mass enters and mass leaves, but there is no accumulation of mass. So there is no accumulation of energy also when you are talking about steady flow energy equation. Now, when mass enters, mass carries some enthalpy or energy with it, and similarly the mass leaving also like takes away some energy or enthalpy with it. Okay. And the similar thing with the when you are saying this heat, it is entering from the boundary, not along with the mass, right? So that's how you have categorized these two different things. One, the energy entering with mass, the other energy entering from the boundary, the surface of the boundary it is entering. So heat is either entering or heat is leaving, right? Again, those parameters like those entering from x direction and those entering from y direction and leaving from y direction, uh, 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 different things you illustrated in this diagram. And what you can say is the net rate of change of mass sorry, net rate of change of energy due to the mass entering and leaving, plus net rate of change of heat entering and leaving at boundary, right? And if there is some work existing, then that the sum will be equal to 0. But in this case, this work, most of the cases when we are talking about heat and mass transfer, the work is not existing, right? So that is equal to 0. Okay. Uh, right. Now, what are the different energy forms? Like you have this, as it is mentioned here, potential energy and kinetic energy. So this the enthalpy. So enthalpy, potential energy, kinetic energy, and the mass flow rate multiplied with that. And this is mass flow rate and enthalpy. This is potential energy as Gz, and the kinetic energy. Right. Now, uh, the changes are small, right? The changes are small. Here it's written 0 doesn't mean that U and P are equal to 0. But if you take the entering section and the leaving section, then the difference would be 0, right? So, uh, okay. So these two terms are uh, nearly equal to 0. Now the kinetic energy, right, the unit, etc., are discussed, right? And so if you use those parameters in the equation written in the previous figure, so this difference is written here, and what you get is this term gets cancelled, mcpt, right? And what you have is this number, right? So that is differentiation with respect to x. So finally it's rho cp u dt by dx plus v dt by dy. Okay. And then this dx by dy can be omitted. Okay. Right. And this is the heat that is entering at the boundary by, you can say, by conduction, right? So by conduction, so you are talking about what is entering and what is leaving, the difference between those two. So this is what is entering on the x equal to 0, and this is what is entering at x, or rather leaving at x plus dx, right? So you are interested in the difference, you can find that difference in this form, k d square t by dx square, right? So this is what is this is in what, this is in x direction, and the similar term you will have in the y direction. Okay, then one can talk about work, right? But as I told, the work is 0. So this is what is entering along with the mass, and that is called convective term, right? This is what you get earlier, right? This thing, right? And dx by dy is common, so you omit that, right? So this is the heat entering by convection, means along with the mass into the control volume, and this is what is the net rate of change, not exactly entering or leaving, but rather net rate of change of convection, and this is net rate of change of energy of the system because of conduction. So they should equate with each other, right? They should balance each other, right? Because there is no accumulation of energy. Now again, many times this d square t by dx square is also small as compared to this one, so it may be dropped. Okay. Now there is something called viscous shear stress, which is neglected here. It is applicable only for very high velocity, or it is significant only at a very high velocities, that is Mach number crossing 1. Right, so those terms are not considered in the final simplified equation. Okay, so this is the equation what you have, like the same equation was shown earlier, but that rho cp, you are dividing k with rho cp here, and that makes it alpha, that is thermal diffusivity. So this is by advection, and this is by diffusion. Okay. So this is the physical significance of various terms. Right, so this is the final simplified form of energy equation for that 2D flow, what you can say, right? Okay, if the fluid is stationary, then advection won't be existing. So the second term, the summation of these two will be equal to 0. So now you have three simplified equations for incompressible. Now, when you say incompressible, it means that the density changes are very small. Right? Incompressible can be many times applied to air also. We are talking about incompressible flow. So Mach number is less than 1, right? Much less than 1. So that is incompressible flow. The fluid may be compressible. So even for air, if the velocities are low and the density changes are low, then it may be considered to be an incompressible flow. And like in all cases that we discussed, we will never be talking about any compressible flow in this subject. And so it is incompressible fluid, density changes are negligible, and it's if it is laminar, then inside the boundary layer, these are boundary layer governing equations, right? They are applicable inside the boundary layer, not outside that. Other properties are also constant. If you talk about the, let's say, kinetic viscosity, kinematic viscosity, or other terms, right? Thermal conductivity. Okay, so continuity equation is du by dx plus dv by dy is equal to 0. Momentum equation is rho into u du by dx plus v du by dy is equal to, so left hand side is the is due to advection, the mass entering the system, and along with that it carries momentum. What you have on the right hand side, one pressure force and the other is viscous force. They are balancing one another. And then this is the energy equation, and the left hand side is due to advection, the heat that is, or the energy that is entering due to the mass entering, and this is occurring at the boundary, the diffusion or conduction, right? Now there is an important word, boundary conditions, right? You may or may not have heard this. So to be able to solve these equations, you have three sets of equations. Now you want to solve it, so you need certain boundary conditions to be able to solve those equations, right? So there are certain boundary conditions available which you can use to be able to solve this if you have to analytically solve these equations. So what are those boundary conditions? You will have to recall the diagram, the flow over a flat plate. right? Flow over a flat plate, that horizontal plate, and the boundary layer is growing over that. Now x equal to 0 means which point x equal to 0 means the leading edge of the plate, right? Leading edge of the plate. At that point, your u at x and y, right? So x is equal to 0. Now y can be anything, but your velocity is u infinity. That is free stream velocity, right? So if you can recall, or let me that diagram. So here at this point, the leading edge of the plate, right, which we many times show as a sharp edge. We show, it's a good practice to show it as a sharp edge if you want to tell that the development of the flow is, or the growth of the boundary layer is laminar, right? So it should, if it is a blunt edge, then it may create disturbance, and laminar flow may not be established. It may become turbulent from the beginning. So it's a good practice to show it as a sharp edge. Right? So here x is equal to 0 at this point, right? Now whatever may be the y, what is the velocity? U velocity, or velocity in x direction, it is equal to u infinity. So that is one of the boundary conditions. One of the boundary conditions, right? Boundary condition is your u at x equal to 0 is equal to u infinity, right? And T, the temperature, if you are drawing the profile, right? If you are drawing the temperature profile, if your x is equal to 0, again at that point, whatever may be your y, the temperature is equal to T infinity. So this is also free stream temperature, right? That is also free stream temperature T infinity. So both of them are unaffected yet. Okay, now the next boundary condition, y equal to 0. Y equal to 0 means you are at the surface of the plate, right? You are at the surface of the plate. So at surface, whatever may be the x, if your y is equal to 0, then the velocity is going to be 0, right? That is no slip condition. That is the first layer of the fluid in contact with the plate is going to achieve 0 velocity, right? Then the v velocity uh, at any x, but if your y is equal to 0, then that is equal to 0, right? And then t again at y equal to 0. Now what will be the temperature? The temperature would be Ts, right? The surface temperature, right? So no temperature jump. Well, whatever is the temperature of the solid surface, same is the temperature of the first layer of fluid when y is equal to 0. Now at y equal to infinity means you are outside the boundary layer, right? So in that case, again, free stream velocity, u is free stream velocity, and t is free stream temperature. So these are the boundary conditions which may be used to be able to solve above and equations analytically. Okay. Now again, like you might want to simplify these equations for particular case and then solve it for that. Okay. Now there is something called principle of similarity. Like, as you might have noticed, there are many parameters which affect the phenomena of heat transfer. Now we would like to reduce number of parameters. If you want to perform experiments, then you can't vary so many parameters, right? So you will rather condense those, or group those parameters and condense them, so that you can vary a certain parameter, hold others constant, then hold that parameter constant, vary some other parameter, and then you get the result, and that result will help you to get things like Nusselt number or heat transfer coefficient, right? So we are basically finding the certain non-dimensional numbers which affect the phenomena of heat transfer or phenomena of mass transfer. So the numbers are or parameters are non-dimensionalized, as you can see. And how are they non-dimensionalized? How is a particular parameter defined? That can be seen here. So a non-dimensional parameter you would show like you would put a star. So x star is equal to x upon L, right? So what is this x? Sorry, what is x is x value, that is the coordinate. What is this L? L is the length of the plate, right? The total length of the plate. So let's say the length of the plate is 3 meters. So you are going to like, so it x starts from 0 and goes up to 3. So if it is let's say 1, you are talking about that particular cross section, then you put x equal to 1 and L is equal to 3. So x star is equal to 0.3333 that way. So that is an like both of them are meters, so it becomes a non-dimensional parameter. Similarly for y, again the reference is L, the length of the plate. Then u star is uh, uh, u upon u infinity. So you divide the your given value of u with u infinity, right? So what is going to be the maximum value of u star? It can be maximum 1, right? So it varies from 0 to 1. Similarly, V star is again the reference parameter is U infinity only. So V upon U infinity. P star is related with the kinetic energy, P upon rho U infinity square. And T star is non-dimensional temperature difference, right? It's not temperature, it's temperature difference. So it's defined as whatever is the local temperature, you deduct your Ts, the surface temperature, from that, and T infinity minus Ts, right? So this parameter should come out to be positive, right? You like you have kept Ts both on the right hand side, so it will come out to be a positive number. Okay. Now you are non-dimensionalizing the continuity equation. What was the continuity equation? Du by dx plus dv by dy is equal to 0. Now what you are doing is you are dividing all terms by L. So your u will become all terms by L. So u will become like I'm sorry, you are multiplying all terms by L. So it will become x upon L. So x upon L is x star, right? So du by dx, so this dx becomes x star. Similarly, this becomes y star. Now you are dividing it with u infinity, all the terms by u infinity. So this becomes u star and this becomes v star. So continuity equation hardly changes its form, except that you have made them like each parameter non-dimensional. There is no additional thing appearing in this equation when you do this exercise of non-dimensionalizing the equations. Now you apply that with to the momentum equation. So what you are doing is you have multiplied all the terms with L, and you have divided all the terms by u infinity. Okay, uh, rather u infinity square, right? And when you do that, you get it in this form. But you have, I mean, that one. So here I'm not doing that exercise, but you take it as a homework. I think the derivation is given. Might have been given in Sengel, also in Incropera David. If it is not given in main text, it may have been given in appendix, right? So you do this exercise, how you can get this form of equation. Basically you are multiplying the dimensional equation with non-dimensional equation, multiplying it with something and dividing it with something, and then there are certain parameters left out in this term, and those parameters actually basically they are nothing but 1 upon Reynolds number. So we already know what is Reynolds number. Reynolds number is rho u infinity into L, right? L is the characteristic length. Okay. So when you are talking about plate, you write it as L. When you are talking about pipe, you write it as D. Okay, so rho u infinity L upon mu, right? Those terms will remain here, and that's nothing but 1 upon Reynolds number. So what you find is in the non-dimensionalized momentum equation, the Reynolds number has appeared. The Reynolds number, which is a non-dimensional number, has appeared in this. Now the energy equation. The energy equation again you you are multiplying it with certain parameters, dividing it with certain parameters, right? And you can get this form of non-dimensional energy equation. Okay, but what you find is that the right hand side, you find out the extra parameters remaining and you group them in a particular way. What you'll find is you have Reynolds number here as well as Prandtl number here in the denominator. Okay, so this is non-dimensional form of energy equation. Then like the boundary conditions what was talked about in the previous slide. So if you just divide that x by L, you can say like at x equal to 0 means x upon L equal to 0, so x star equal to 0. So at that point, so same boundary conditions are expressed with in non-dimensional form. So what you find is that because this becomes u infinity by u infinity, it becomes 1, right? So those boundary conditions, after dividing them with the required or reference parameter, you have re-expressed them. Okay. So why is this exercise of non-dimensionalizing the equations done, or why are some non-dimensional parameters formed? The reason for this is, for example, if you have two different solids here. For example, one of the solid is having, let's say, length L1 and the other one is having length L2. Let's say in one case water is involved, in another case air is involved. Okay. Uh, so you might try and experimentally find out an equation for this, like when you vary different parameters, let's say length or this height or velocity or the fluid, you can perform a set of experiment. But then for this, you might have to do another set of experiments. But what you find is that the shapes are similar. The shapes are similar, and if you find Reynolds number, it may happen that both of them have same Reynolds number, and uh, Prandtl number again might be equal, though the fluids are different, but maybe at certain conditions, the like a particular condition of temperature and pressure, they might be becoming equal. So this may be equal to this, right? So in that case, let's say you are getting your Reynolds number equal and Prandtl number equal, though the geometry is different. So your friction coefficient may come out to be will come out to be equal for both the cases, and similarly Nusselt number will also come out to be equal. So you don't actually have to perform two different sets of experiments. Actually, it's a very tedious procedure, right? I'm just telling it in one sentence, but it like to make a proper setup and then perform the experiment with good accuracy, you have to control so many parameters. Okay, so it takes might take months to make the setup and then perform experiments as required. So you would like to reduce the number of experiments and generalize whatever results you get, right? And that's what we will be using later on in most of the cases in solving the conduction problems. That is, the empirical correlations available from various experiments which have been done by the researchers, uh, and they have given in means how is let's say Nusselt number or CF, the friction coefficient, is related with Reynolds number or Prandtl number, and with the help of that equation you can find out those parameters. You will not be solving the these governing equations most of the times, right? So now that's applicable to a certain range of, let's say, Reynolds number and Prandtl number, right? So that criteria will also be given. So by doing this, grouping various parameters and forming a non-dimensional number, you are reducing the number of parameters and reducing your the steps or variety of experiments for forming an empirical correlations. Now, if you look at the second equation, the x momentum equation, uh, your u star is function of x star, y star, and Reynolds number. Right. So what you find here is like you are interested in, let's say, getting the this u profile, right? So a profile of u velocity. So in you, from this equation you can tell that it depends upon x, it depends upon y, and it depends upon the Reynolds number. Now, while you are stating this, you are presuming that dp by dx is again negligible. That is, change of pressure in x direction is also very, very small, right? So in that case, you can say that your u star is function of x star, y star, and Reynolds number. Now, the shear stress at the wall can be given as Tw is equal to mu into du by dy at y equal to 0. So now you are non-dimensionalizing this term. So what you do is you divide it with u infinity, right, and multiply it with u infinity. So that number, like extra u infinity, is here, and you have divided it, so that has made this u star. Right. Similarly, you divide it with L and multiply it with L. So this is one L has gone here, so made it U y star, and this extra L is here, right? And that is also like y is equal to 0 means y star is equal to 0, because y star is nothing but y upon L. So if your y is equal to 0, that term is going to be, y star is also going to be equal to 0. So uh, this du by dy, right? This is u depends upon x, y, and Reynolds number. But your du by dy, so y will disappear, right? Because you are talking about du by dy, right? Variation of du by dy. It is function of that is function of x star and Reynolds number, right? So this was x, y, and Reynolds number. It is x star and Reynolds number. So you were interested. Yes. Uh, yes. So now, like from this equation, you are able to tell that yeah, this the shear stress at wall, which is one of the important parameters, is function of x star and Reynolds number. Why is this important? Because it's related with friction, and you want to get the frictional pressure drop. So for that, this will be important. Right. Okay. Now, so now you are using it like the definition of local friction factor. You had defined it as tau w upon u infinity square by 2, right? So now what you got here, you are putting that value of tau at wall, right? So if you put that, what you see is that this friction, local friction factor, right? When you write x as suffix, f is for friction. When you write x as suffix, it is local value. Okay. These parameters, whether you call about, you talk about, the friction factor, or you talk about Reynolds number, uh, they their local value is one thing, and then you find it by integrating it over some length, and you get the average value. So currently we are talking about the local value. So this local value is you can find with this right. Uh, so what you finally get is this CFX is 2 upon Reynolds number into some function of x star and Reynolds number, right? So CFX is some function of some other function of x star and Reynolds number. So now you know what this CFX depends upon. It depends upon the x value, right, where you are on the plate, and second, the value of Reynolds number. So because you know this dependence now, what you can do is you can perform a set of experiments, vary value of x star, and or measure the parameter at different points on along the length of the plate, and In another set of experiments, you vary the value of Reynolds number. Let's say in one case you have taken it 1000, now you take it 10 raised to 4, then you take it 10 raised to 5, etc. Right, and then plot this CFX versus Reynolds number at a particular value of X. Right, and then you can have either 3D plot, or you can have multiple plots at different X star values for different Reynolds number. And with that graph you will be able to find a or able to write an equation which is relating CFX with X star and Reynolds number, and that equation can be used by others also, right, because you have written a generalized equation. Of course there will be a certain range in which that will be applicable. Like there is a limitation to what value of X you will go from, and similarly what value of Reynolds number you will go for, right? So you will have to state those limitations also. Okay. Now similarly, similar exercise can be done for the energy equation. So from energy equation you can tell that this T star is function of the energy equation. Now you are interested in T star, the variation of T star, the temperature profile throughout the boundary layer, or you may be interested in dt by dy, right, the gradient at the surface, right? So from that equation, one can tell that this T star must be a function of X star, Y star, Reynolds number, and Prandtl number, right? Now the local convective heat transfer coefficient, right? So how do you define it? This is the definition of heat transfer coefficient as it was defined earlier, right? This it's k dt by dy at y equal to 0 divided by Ts minus T infinity. Okay. Now you non-dimensionalize it. So this is what you get when you non-dimensionalize it, and then this gets cancelled. These two terms get cancelled. So you get k by L dt by dy, and you can see it has become positive. Dt star by dy star at y star equal to 0. Now the relation, what is the like how is Nusselt number defined? The Nusselt number is defined as HL by K, right? So this HL by K, so you have this equation for H, so you multiply it with L and divide by K, so even this will disappear. So finally what you are able to show is that NUX, the local value of Nusselt number, is dt star by dy star. So that is non-dimensional temperature difference, the gradient, right, at the surface. And this dt star by dy star, what does it depend upon? It depends upon, now T star depends upon X, Y, Reynolds number, Prandtl number, but now you're talking about dt by dy, so this Y star disappears. So it's function of X star, Reynolds number, and Prandtl number, right? So the Nusselt number is equivalent to dimensionless temperature gradient. This is dimensionless temperature gradient at the surface, and thus it is property referred to as the dimensionless heat transfer coefficient. So this is the Nusselt number, and Nusselt number is equivalent to dimensionless temperature gradient at the surface, and thus it is properly referred to as the dimensionless heat transfer coefficient. And it's referred to as dimensionless heat transfer coefficient. Here it is dt by dy at y equal to 0. Dt star by dy star at y star is equal to 0. And the local Nusselt number is function of X star, Reynolds number, and Prandtl number. But most of the times we are interested in the average value over some length of the plate. So you integrate it from X equal to 0 to X equal to L. So you're interested in the average value of Nusselt number, and in that case even this X star will disappear, right, because its dependence on X will be averaged. So this average Nusselt number is function of only Reynolds number and Prandtl number. So why you might be interested in getting Nusselt number? Why are you interested in getting Nusselt number? Because it gives you the heat transfer coefficient H. And now you know that the Nusselt number is function of only Reynolds number and Prandtl number. So now you design your experiment. What I mean, you design means the researcher who wants to investigate a particular case for getting the heat transfer coefficient on Nusselt number. So he will design the experiment for variation of Reynolds number and Prandtl number. So Prandtl number variation may be done by changing temperature or maybe by changing the fluid to cover a certain range of Prandtl number. And similar thing, Reynolds number, one can vary generally for a given geometry by changing the one thing is the velocity, and of course when you change the this fluid because of the parameter or rather the properties of the fluid, also the Reynolds number will change. Right? So in general, it is found that correlations of Nusselt number are in the form of some constant into Reynolds number. This now when we don't write x, right? It's not Rex, it is Rel. It means it is average. Okay, so Rel raised to m. So here also you have not written x. It means it is average Nusselt number. Only if it is local you need to write, or sometimes it's written as NUL also. You might write L also here. Just to if you write L like this, the way it is it's written for Reynolds number, it means you are talking about the external flow case. You're talking about external flow case L, because L is the characteristic length of the plate. If you're talking about internal flow, then the diameter of the pipe may be characteristic length. So you will write NUD here, and here also Reynolds number you will write RED here, right? So it is found that this Nusselt number average can generally be expressed in this form, right? This is like you will have to find what will be for a given case or range of Reynolds number and Prandtl number, what will be the value of C and what will be the value of M and N, that the researcher will have to investigate. Okay, so okay. We can talk about this analogy, and let's take one analogy, and we'll take the second analogy in the next. So momentum and heat transfer analogy. As you can see, these two equations, momentum equation and energy equation, right? They look quite similar to each other. Okay, and here Prandtl number is not written. If your Prandtl number is nearly equal to 1, that can disappear, right? That can disappear. So you can see that both of them look very similar. Now, to reduce the effort required to get, in one case you want to get friction coefficient, the empirical correlation for that, and then you also want to get it for Nusselt number, so that you can get the heat transfer coefficient. But if you can perform only one side where you get the friction coefficient, and these two equations like CF and Nusselt number are related, there is analogy, similarity between these two equations. So if you can relate CF and Nusselt number, then you don't need to have another set of experiments for getting the heat transfer coefficient, right? The same correlation that you got for CF with modification may be applied for Nusselt number, right? So profile is related with U star and T star. The gradients are just showing the similarity or analogy between these two equations. So here you have du by dx and du by dy. Here you have du by dy, and here second one you have dt by dy. So an analogy called Reynolds analogy tells that Nusselt number is equal to CFX into Reynolds number by 2, right? Where your Prandtl number is nearly equal to 1. So for gases, the Prandtl number is close to 1, right? So you can use this analogy. So what is the benefit of this analogy? Of course, it's applicable to what is the condition? That your Reynolds number should be nearly equal to 1, right? Your Reynolds number should be nearly equal to 1. In that case, you apply this analogy. So what you can do is just get the correlation for friction coefficient, right? And you get the correlation by just multiply it by Reynolds number by 2, and you get the correlation for Nusselt number. So you don't need an separate exercise to get the value of Nusselt number. And so that's the benefit of stating an analogy, and this is called Reynolds analogy. So in for a particular case, Prandtl number nearly 1, if you have correlation for CFX, you can use it just by multiplying by REL by 2 for getting the Nusselt number.